Introduce the two guest speakers for today, Shri K. Raju IAS and Shri T. Vijay Kumar IAS. Raju sir belongs to the 1981 batch of the Andhra Pradesh cadre. He has been closely associated with poverty alleviation initiatives in the government of Andhra Pradesh for the last 2 decades and is currently Joint Secretary, National Advisory Council. Our second speaker, Vijay Kumar sir, belongs to the 1983 batch of the Andhra Pradesh cadre. Sir has also been closely involved in rural development at the state level and is currently Joint Secretary, SGSY, and Mission Director, NRLM, in the Government of India. We also have women from self-help groups from the states of Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and Jharkhand. Without further delay, I request Sir to kindly start the session. Thank you.
So good afternoon to all of you. Next 2 hours, there will be 6 of us who will be talking to you. 4 of the women, their small voices, small successes, but great transformation they have experienced in their lives, they will share with you. Vijay is going to primarily talk about how the organizations of the poor are needed to look at poverty reduction in a holistic manner. He is going to place before you the experiences from such effort, where the belief that there is tremendous potential within the poor and that the potential can be harnessed by organizing them. That belief was taken very seriously, sincerely in the state of Andhra Pradesh, where today you would find that poor in every village are organized into self-help groups. The self-help groups in each village are federated into village organizations. The village organizations at a block level are federated into Mandal Samakhyas. The kind of institutional architecture for the poor that has come about over a period of 15 years of combined work of Vijay and myself. Vijay is going to take you through all those details. This 2-hour session primarily would look at 4 critical things which we consider very critical for poverty elimination strategy. The first one is about the growth, because many of us who talk of poverty might be confronted with a viewpoint that growth per se will take care of everything. There is no need to talk about the poverty. Growth will automatically trickle down to the last person. Let us see whether that happens or not, whether we need to do something more than promoting growth. Just a few thoughts, just a couple of minutes. Secondly, I would like to bring to your notice that the Indian Parliament, the assemblies of the states over the last few decades have indeed put together a good set of legislations, policies, brought out programs for poverty reduction. In fact, anyone reading some of these legislations would be very much touched by the kind of concern that our policy makers have expressed, have kept at the back of their mind when they have brought out these very pro-poor, people-centered legislations. If you look at some of those legislations, you would really admire at the kind of understanding our policy makers have had. If you look at land legislations, land reform that have come in the early 1950s, you would really feel how we wish all these legislations were implemented in letter and spirit. Today, we would have found ourselves living in a different India. If you look at the labor legislations that our policymakers have brought out, you really wonder the kind of a human approach, rights-based approach, their recognition of the rights of the individuals, you really admire at those legislations. So let us take a stock of those legislations, particularly those which are aimed at poverty reduction. The reason as why I would like to talk a few minutes about those legislations is to request each one of you to take your district training as one great opportunity for you to look at these legislations more closely. You will never get this kind of opportunity once you take independent charge of your assignment. It is only in the district training you will be able to look at things from a distance without having the baggage of having to defend a particular viewpoint, which will happen once you sit in that chair. As long as you go to that level, you can always exercise your free mind, keep questioning, raise fundamental issues to all those who are charged with the responsibility to train you, but do evaluate these legislations and policies in a manner that you would, in the first instance, understand what is the spirit behind these legislations and what actually is happening on the ground, and what as an officer in the next 3 to 4 decades each one of you will be able to do to realize those dreams of our policymakers. Thirdly, we would like to talk about what is called social mobilization of the poor. What does this mean? Why in the government we are talking of mobilizing the poor? Is it something that only the leftists have to do? What has it got to do with poverty reduction? What are the experiences from across the world, across the South Asian countries with regard to social mobilization? Why we need to talk of organizing the poor? Why we need to talk of government investing in the organizations of the poor for achieving poverty reduction? Why can't we continue to assume the role that the government is totally in charge of these matters and the government should decide everything? We know better. Poor people don't know anything. They are in need of relief, so we will just deliver the programs to them. We look at them as objects, not as subjects. They are not at the center of our stage. Why not we continue this? Why we need to all of a sudden talk of a new paradigm that is now giving us good results in state after state, where poor are brought onto the center of the stage, where government is enabling the poor build their own organizations. What are these organizations? How they are built? What kind of a transformation these organizations will bring about on the lives of the poor is something Vijay will talk in great detail. Finally, I would like to just highlight certain aspects of implementation architecture and the processes concerning the poverty reduction. If we are in the business of poverty reduction, what kind of implementation architecture that has to be in place, which is non-negotiable, and what are the processes? So these are the few thoughts that we'll place before you, with the hope that you would carry these thoughts behind you when you go to the district and then start reflecting on them. Let us begin with, I'm sure all of you are aware of what I'm going to say. There's nothing new or nothing not known to you is coming on the screen. But I would like to say that we should not only talk about these things now, but we should talk about these things every day, every time we talk of development and growth, then only the message gets internalized. Otherwise, there is a danger of missing the truth which I am going to place before you. There is one question that always bothers us. That is India doing marvelously well, or is it failing terribly? There are a group of people, though privileged minority, believe that after many decades of stagnation, Indian economy has witnessed spectacular uptake. The incomes of the people has registered a great improvement, all because of the market initiatives. Whatever disparities that one may see, they are only transitory. They will not be there long. They will all be addressed. The growth will take care of everything. That is what some of us believe. Some of the privileged lot in this country believe. But there are also some people who keep saying that the fruits of the growth are not coming to us. We are not able to share the fruits of the growth. Despite the tremendous growth in incomes, still our quality of life, our well-being has not significantly improved. So large number of people hold this view. But the reality is both views are correct. Both views are compatible with each other. That is a reality, that is a paradox about which we should keep thinking about. In any situation there has to be only one truth. But in this situation both are right, both are correct, both are coexisting, both the views, both the scenarios. Why? Why? Because lack of understanding of what are the demands of development that go well beyond the growth. Can growth alone take care of all the developmental needs? Can growth alone secure better standards of living to all? Or is there anything beyond the growth that state has to think of so as to ensure development? Here each one of us have to develop some kind of a sensitivity in the first place. Secondly, a kind of a analytical understanding or a mind frame, or I would say an expertise to understand what growth can do and what growth